tell us a little bit about the different characters that you work with in your shows?
Well, I've got they run the gamut. Like this is my redneck guy. He goes over in just about any type of venue, as far as even churches, because everybody knows redneck church members. So he goes over well as far and you'd be surprised. Even when I travel up into Michigan or Wisconsin or wherever, everybody knows rednecks. So, he fits in. Mm-hmm. But right now I'm using a wide variety of characters, animals and people and inanimate objects and just things like that. It just depends on what type of show I need to put together. I try to make it as custom fitted to the audience as possible. I do what I call front each show, and I know you do as well. You front the shows, and I have a whole questionnaire that I send people, and they can answer questions about specific people or events that have happened, and you try to work the comedy of their unique event into your show so that their show is different than anybody else's. And I try to do that with the characters as well.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big things with ventriloquism, that because when we met first time, I was doing magic. Hadn't worked any puppets into the show, and that's the one thing that ventriloquism really does allow you to customize that program almost on the fly. You learn about them in advance, and I think that's one of the fascinating parts about it. So,
and I'll always have two or three characters with me that I will never use in the show, but just for that specific reason, so that I can be there on the fly, and if I see a certain situation or something come about at a banquet or at the awards before my show, then I can pull that character out and specifically change it to fit that.
Okay, that's fantastic. Now, when do you fly to many of your performances, or do you prefer to drive?
I do. I fly. I drive to as many as possible, obviously, because you can control so many other variables that you can't when you fly, unless you go in a day early, and sometimes your schedule doesn't allow for you to go in a day early. So, but I fly a lot and drive a lot.
Okay, yeah. So you've had made friends with the TSA, I'm sure.
Oh yes, several different occasions. As a matter of fact, I have a story about that.
Okay.
I had this guy with me at a church up in Pittsburgh not too long ago, Otis, and I had the head in my carry-on bag, and the body was in checked luggage, and I was leaving Pittsburgh, and my head went through X-ray, and of course they pulled me out. The guy takes the head out of the bag, and he's waving it around, and I'm going, oh, I'm freaking, because he's got the most expensive part of my figure, waving it in the air, and goes, what's this? And I say, please be careful with that. And he said, well, you can't take it on the plane. And I said, excuse me? He said, I can't let you take this on the plane because it can be considered a blunt weapon. And I said, so can my shoe. So he looked at me, he says, I'm going to have to confiscate it. And I said, I need to talk to your supervisor. So he called the supervisor over, and about 5 minutes later he comes walking up. Well, he gets about 10 yards from me, and he goes, hey, Steve, how you doing? And I said, excuse me, do I know you? He says, yeah, I was at your show last night at the church. And I'm going, oh, great, this is good. So he says, what's the problem? I said, he won't let me take my dummy's head on the plane with me. And he looked right at his coworker, and he said, you're the only dummy here. Let this man on the plane.